The 5 main mistakes people make when buying a used boat. Nautical tips in a nutshell. Follow us. First, not doing a thorough inspection. That means, wow, how cool, what a boat. This is exactly the boat I wanted, the one I dreamed of. Okay, but get on board, check the cushions carefully, check the systems thoroughly, make sure everything works properly. So do a really thorough inspection of everything. The cushions, the upholstery, the engine. Check that the engine works and that everything is in good condition. So make sure you do a proper inspection. And I would say, actually, I am telling you when it comes to boats, especially the more important ones, when you start spending tens or even hundreds of thousands of euros, I still see people buying from private sellers without having a technical survey done by an expert. To me, this really seems like a big risk. The question is, so where does the difference lie? The difference is that if you buy from a dealer, since it's a business, the law really protects you a lot, maybe even too much. But rightly so, because we are the professionals in the boating industry and you might be a beginner or inexperienced, so it's only right that the law protects you during this purchasing phase. Therefore, I have to provide you with something that comes with a guarantee that it matches the warranty and its condition of use. Consequently, if I tell you that something works, it has to work, it must work, everything has to function. If I tell you there's only car radio, then there's only car radio, and it has to work, I can't just ignore that. Or for example, the boat shouldn't take on water, it has to float, it has to sail, it has to be in good condition, not broken. So if you buy from a dealer, you're all set. The problem if you buy from a private seller is that, at least in Italy, I honestly don't know about abroad, but definitely in Italy, since I'm familiar with the environment, I'm Italian thinking about having to sue another private individual because they hid a problem the boat had in a less than genuine way. I feel like I should use more delicate terms here, but basically they weren't completely honest with you and you end up in a lawsuit, maybe you buying a boat, I don't know. Yes, that's true. But even if we're talking about a boat worth €500,000, suing someone really becomes a problem because then you have this whole thing that's just a pain in the neck. But imagine if you have to sue over a boat worth 15 or 20,000 euros. I mean, lawyer or no lawyer, my goodness, what a mess. So if you're buying from a private seller, get an inspection done, ask surveyors for quotes to see if it's worth it, whether you should take on the risk or go ahead with the inspection. Number 2, ignoring past maintenance. I don't know why there's this habit which I hate, and I'll say it again, hate of people not issuing invoices. No, you do maintenance. You have to show me someone who isn't an expert, that you go to a qualified, technically capable mechanic, meaning a business that issues invoices and clearly states in black and white that the work is done seriously, transparently, and officially. That way, I'll have the history of that boat, of that engine, which gets recorded online and documented in the paperwork. Otherwise, even for boats from the 80s, when there were no registration systems, but invoices were still issued at cost X, I write X on the sheet, okay, perfect, I sell you this thing, and I also give you the last 10 maintenance records I've done over the past 10 years. But for heaven's sake, why is that? There are so few people who actually do this. No, I can't accept that. I can't accept that the fact that I'm often told is just how things work in that place. No. So if I have colleagues, if we want to call them colleagues, but I don't want to use harsh words if they were, I don't even call them colleagues if. There are people who claim to be technicians but don't keep proper documentation of the work they've done. And if you ask for it, they won't give it to you. Bring the financial authorities there and tell them now you have to do it. I mean, that's just unacceptable. It really is just unacceptable. So please make sure to check that the boat has been properly maintained. Often people don't even know what documents are required for the boat. Engine power certificate, boat compliance certificate. These are 2 official documents. You can't just buy something like this as if it were a bicycle. Sometimes I'm honestly amazed. So In addition to making sure the maintenance has been done properly, also check that the documents are genuine, and if you're not sure about them, take these documents, go to an agency, pay for a verification 30-50 euros. I don't know how much they might charge you. Ask them, excuse me, but are these documents real? Are they correct? I don't know, just not carrying. No, forget it. Just forget it. Another mistake, a big one, not checking the condition of the engine, whether it's a motorboat or even a sailboat. However, on a sailboat, I would generally pay more attention to its engine, which are the sails and all the systems, so to speak, all the rigging set up to make the sailboat work. So things like a winch, for example, the rudders, the sails themselves. Check, and I hope that parso the engine of the sailboat, meaning the sails, but there's also the actual engine. So make sure the engine starts, that it works, that it delivers the right performance. Even more so, if we're talking about motorboats, the engine should work, start up, cool properly, have no alarms, and this used kind of specialized technician should have given you a report on this engine. If the owner doesn't have it, get it done. That's really the bare minimum. Even if you're buying from a private seller, that doesn't mean you should skip it, but a private seller can't just bring surprises on you. So please, make sure to check that the engine is working properly, taking into account what it is. I mean, you can't expect a 30-year-old engine to be perfect like a brand new one. That said, a 30-year-old engine that's been used, maintained, and checked properly should still have all the characteristics that an engine of that age, power, and model is supposed to have. Don't overlook the operating budget, I'll call it that, or whatever you want to call it, the money this boat will cost you once you've bought it. This is a factor that if you're buying the boat from a reputable dealer, I hope they'll mention to you. For me, one of the two main factors I discuss with the client isn't so much about how much money you have or how much you can spend on this, but rather what is the psychological threshold that, let's put it this way, you can spend it, I don't know, how could I possibly know? It's not my money. I don't know what you earn or don't earn. That said, I'm not interested in whether you can spend it. What matters to me, speaking as a dealer, is understanding together with the person in front of me how much they can spend emotionally. Because for many people who could spend 100, spending 20 is an emotional problem because it feels to them like throwing money away. On the other hand, there are people who, even if their budget is 100, say, well, 110 for this bit of fun is fine, so it's all relative, it's really all relative. But keep in mind, if a dealer always takes into account the running costs of the boat, a dealer should clear up your doubts or even anticipate them, meaning they should already tell you during the sales process what it is, how it works, and roughly how much it will cost you to manage this boat. If it's a private seller, well, you just have to ask them. If they're an honest person, they should tell you, this year I spent this much on the marina, this much on maintenance, showing you exactly what's written on the invoices. Yes, invoices. Invoice show much the maintenance of these things actually cost and any other issues or small things they've had to do and manage. That said, in my opinion, there's something even more important to keep in mind. Let me give you an example that's not exactly related, but just to make the point by exaggerating. Imagine I give you a castle, not just a house, but a castle as a gift. Guys, do you then have 10 million or even just €1 million a year to maintain the castle? But the castle is worth 100 million. Okay, I get it. So do you have $1 million to maintain it? No? Then maybe not in the sense that if I give you this gift, you wouldn't know how to manage it unless you're an entrepreneur or you have an entire business. But let's go further. I want to take this to the extreme and even say some absurd things just to help you understand that the real issue is how much it bothers you to spend that amount every year, whether you use it or not. Based on how much that bothers you, you'll decide if this boat is for you or not. So it's not just funny to think about, it would be even more ridiculous to actually try it out at sea. So it's absolutely fine if you buy from a reputable dealer, and by reputable dealer, I mean someone who doesn't just sell boats, but who actually represents national or international brands, engine manufacturers, and is officially recognized by major brands and multinational companies as a technical operator in the industry. In that case, sure, I would completely trust them because ultimately it's their reputation on the line, and you can't just do whatever you want any judge would side with me, since you are the stronger party. So that's reasonable. I also have many clients who don't ask for a sea trial. Besides not asking, we make videos, as you know, so you can see the boat working. But if you do want a sea trial, I've never refused anyone, of course. The sea trial does have to be paid for though, because its work kit involves maintenance, management, launching the boat if it's out of the water, using the boat, and even if the boat is already in the water, I might need to refuel, check things, or bring in a technician. So there are costs involved, and since you might be buying something that costs 50, 100, 500,000, I don't know, spending 200, 500, 1,000 out of 100,000, I don't know. I'm just throwing out numbers, but it makes sense. What's more, I believe that reputable dealers, not just us, but most of my colleagues do this. If you end up buying the boat, these expenses are fully deducted from the final price you pay. So in the end, if you buy, it won't cost you anything. But it's essential to do it, especially if you're buying a boat from a private seller. I wonder, my goodness, I've seen people who, all the more so, this happens with trailerable boats, so boats that are out of the water. I go to basements, garages, gardens, dry docks, even for significant boats, 7, 8, 9 meters long, and I find some really nice, beautiful stuff. I take it home, then I put it in the water, and it doesn't work. Did you already pay for it? Yes. Okay, fine. So please remember, what is the purpose of the sea trial? It's not so much about taking a ride at sea, but about checking that the engine, besides starting out of the water, actually delivers the right performance. Again, always considering the weight, the age, and everything else, so that engine should perform at sea. If an engine has any issues, those problems only come out during the sea trial, never or almost never just by starting it up in the garage, in the basement, in storage, or on dry land. Why is that? Because the engine isn't under load. It's a bit like with cars. If there's a problem, it shows up when you're actually driving on the road. If you start it at idle in the garage or rev it up in the garage, sure, but the engine isn't under load, so it generally doesn't show any problems. That said, the only way you can check is with a sea trial. Pay for it. After all, if you intend to buy that boat, that's the one. So if it works well, it's in the seller's interest, you're still do this sea trial, even if you have to pay for it. If the dealer or the private seller doesn't want to do it, in my opinion, there are underlying issues. And honestly, I wouldn't trust it. But for heaven's sake, you're absolutely free to do whatever you want. So remember, buy well, buy smart, and buy what is right for you now, at this moment. That said, I can't help but remind you to subscribe to our channel if you don't want to miss any of our nautical tips or sea trials. Fair winds, and always keep an eye on the weather.